My name is Ken Butigan, and I'm a senior professional lecturer at DePaul in the Peace, Justice, and Conflict Studies program. St. Vincent de Paul saw a world of violence and injustice and asked, what must be done? At DePaul University, we're answering his question by preparing the next generation of peacemakers and agents of change to create a better world and to bring alive our mission and values of justice, solidarity, human rights, and the well-being of all. Key to all of this, from my perspective, is the vision and practice of active and liberating nonviolence. Nonviolence is a paradigm of the fullness of life. To build a more just, peaceful, and sustainable world, we need nonviolent relationships. We need more nonviolent communities, more nonviolent societies, and a more nonviolent planet. This will not happen automatically. It means being trained in the art and science of the nonviolent life and nonviolent movements for change. This is core to the mission of DePaul. This core identity of nonviolent transformation is consistent with the life and work of St. Vincent and St. Louise, of Jesus, who taught us to love our enemies, put down our sword, be kind and merciful to one another, and even of Pope Francis, who is increasingly calling the entire church, including its universities, to embrace and live the nonviolent life. I've been able to work at DePaul for many years, and each year I meet people who want to see a move from the unjust normal to a world that works for everyone. One of the things I've been involved in for the last 5 years has been collaborating with people in the Vatican, at the higher echelons of the Catholic Church, exploring how the church itself could recommit to the nonviolence that Jesus talked about. And increasingly over the last century, theologians, scholars, but especially ordinary people around the planet have been rediscovering that active and creative nonviolence for change in their lives and in the world. And the church has increasingly embraced this. And I've been supported by DePaul, I've been part of 2 significant landmark conferences on nonviolence that have taken place in Rome with people from around the world call on the church to embrace this deep core value and identity of spiritually grounded, but very practical nonviolent change. Those kinds of shifts are beginning to happen. We're seeing, especially from the leadership of Pope Francis, who has called on the entire church to embrace the nonviolent life. Here at DePaul, we are doing everything we can to respond to that and to see that every graduate from DePaul understands that the mission of DePaul includes at its core training in and activation of the nonviolent life. We now know that nonviolence is actually twice as effective as violent strategies. That's been quantified now by some really great researchers, and that's really helped our work to say it's not only a nice idea, it actually is more effective and more powerful than either passivity or violence. When I was a graduate student, actually pursuing first a master's and then a doctorate in theology and religious studies, I met a group of wacky people who were actually taking Jesus seriously when he said, love your enemies and put down your sword and be nonviolent in your life and in the world. And I knew nothing about this, but I was intrigued. And I actually joined them in one nonviolent action after another. And this opened up a whole new world. I started to see that we're taught that there are really 2 ways of dealing with conflict, either being passive or being violent. And I learned that there's a third way, that actually is the 2 hands of nonviolence. The one hand says, I will not cooperate with this injustice. And so often in our life, we're doing this. But I'm open to you as a human being. So it's the no to injustice, but yes to the humanity of those we're in struggle with, even perpetrators of violence. And that led me to decide that I was going to become an organizer for change. So I spent the next 30 years of my life engaged in trying to end homelessness, respond to various wars that my country was waging, the problem of torture, and many other issues around justice and peace. And in my teaching, I bring that work. I continue to do that work in various movements, and always with the touchstone of active, creative, liberating nonviolence. And I found that the students at DePaul are extremely hungry for that kind of practice and that kind of training. When I was in school, I didn't get that training. Now, because DePaul has opened the Peace, Justice, and Conflict Studies program, we get that training here to prepare current and the next generation of agents of change. All of the values of DePaul University are so important. Solidarity, justice, human rights, the well-being of all. Key to all of those is active and liberating nonviolence. It's a paradigm of the fullness of life that helps ground and foster each one of those values. Nonviolence is a universal ethic. And from my perspective, it helps make all of our values happen and more effectively be activated. This world needs that, and all of us leaving DePaul also need that power of creative and active nonviolence.